Trap mines allows you to increase your trap output rate significantly. By using lightning trap with high impact support, you bypass the very high base trap throwing speed of 0.6 seconds. Instead, we are throwing mines with a low base throwing speed of 0.3 seconds. The downside of using high impact mine is that skills will deal 50% less damage, but by using trap mines with swift assembly, you can mitigate the damage loss. Normally, if you use level 20 swift assembly with only mines or traps, skills throw 0.6 additional trap or mine on average. But if you're using trap mines, swift assembly will now apply to your character throwing mines and the mines that are throwing traps. This results in skills throwing 1.2 additional traps on average instead of 0.6, therefore counteracting the damage loss from the high impact mine support gem. Another benefit of trap mines is that mines will aim traps for you as long as the target is within 6 meters of the thrown mine. Additionally, with trap mines, Pyromaniac can give us 20% life regen, as we have traps that are being triggered and mines that are being detonated. This enables us to sustain Righteous Fire, giving us a buff that provides 39% more spell damage at level 20 RF. Using Righteous Fire requires a fast playstyle or mapping, as you need to have 5 mines detonated and traps triggered recently. Pyromania gives you regen for only 4 seconds if you have triggered a trap recently. That makes using RF while bossing very inconvenient. Removing RF with a life flask with the mod Removes Burning is a good option for bossing. Also, I recommend using a ruby flask. The mana costs for traps are high, that's why the spirit uses Eldritch Battery, as it allows you to spend energy shield before mana. I recommend wearing a ES helmet and allocating the ES mastery that gives you 100% increased energy shield from your helmet. You want enough energy shield so that you can cast your Wrath Blessing. Additionally, getting regen ES on belt, as previously mentioned, is good, and using one non-channeling skill have reduced mana cost ring is recommended. These are the links for our main skill, our utility gems, auras, mobility skills, and guard skill. Leveling a lightning trap Saboteur is pretty straightforward. Level 1 to 11 I used explosive trap with chance poison and swift assembly. From level 12 onwards you want to use lightning trap with added lightning damage and swift assembly. Once you get a 4th link, you can use either lightning penetration or trap and mine damage. For your aura setup in Act 2 you want to get summon skiller bots. You can also add Herald of Thunder to your setup, but I personally didn't because lightning trap has such a high mana cost. Now, I didn't really need more damage at that point. Once you've allocated Charisma, you can switch to skiller bots with Wrath, or you can replace Wrath with Grace if you prefer to have more defense. Lightning traps have a very high base mana cost, so getting the mastery skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost is good. Tapping shield charge is not a bad idea. Also, getting a mana flask with effect is not removed when unreserved mana is filled is highly recommended. For your ascendancy, you want to go Explosives Expert first, then Born in the Shadows, and afterwards Chain Reaction. There are a few important crafting bench recipes for lightning trap. The lowest tier spell damage craft you can get in the Ancient Pyramid. That craft will cost you 4 alteration orbs. The added lightning spell damage recipe is next to Piety in Act 3 and will cost you 4 transmutation orbs. For boot enchants, I want the 120% increased critical strike chance if you haven't crit recently. Since we are never critting, only our traps are critting, this is constantly up. For your belt, you want to use a Stygian Vice and craft with a Seal Essence the mod increased trap and mine throwing speed. Ideally, you also want an open suffix, so you can craft regenerate 150 energy shield per second while a unique enemy is nearby. For my chest, I used a Cloak of Flame, since I'm not running Determination and I don't have any phys mitigation otherwise. I'm using this chest for the 40% of physical damage taken as fire damage mod. For the rings, you want to cap your resistances, ideally get some chaos res. For the amulet slot, I recommend using a replica Dragon Fangs Flight with the mod that gives +3 to level to your lightning trap gems. For the shield slots, you want ideally an energy shield base, so it can roll spell damage, lightning damage, +1 to level of spell skill gems. I used greed essences on my shield and got lucky with a +1 to level of all lightning spell skill gems. For your helmet enchant, you ideally you can use lightning trap, pierces 3 additional targets. If you don't want to use that enchant, you can also pick some pierce nodes on the passive tree. My scepter I got from Rogue, but you would craft something like this with woe essences. You look for flat lightning. Ideally you buy a base with increased critical strike chance for spells, fractured, and you craft something like global critical strike multiplier or mind throwing speed. My flask setup is pretty standard. I have a quartz flask, a diamond flask, and a quicksilver. There's a 4th utility flask. I use a ruby flask, which helps with the degen from the righteous fire. I have the prefix 32 to maximum charges, which puts it at 82 maximum charges, so it can last about 40 seconds if I'm not refilling it. So when I'm mapping, this is basically the entire time up. For my anoint, I use successive detonations. That notable gives us extra DPS for each mine detonated recently. We get up to 100% critical strike chance and up to 40% critical strike multiplier. I also use cluster jewels. In total 2 large clusters and 4 medium clusters. For your large cluster jewels, you want the increased lightning damage, and you're looking for the notable Storm Drinker and ideally also Overshock. And you also want a 3rd notable ideally. The way you go about crafting this is with either metallic fossils or reforged lightning. Reforged lightning with harvest. For your medium cluster jewels, you want the jewels that give increased trap damage and increased mine damage. You're looking to get expert sabotage and guerrilla tactics. They both have the speed tag, so using reforged speed with harvest crafts is the ideal way to craft your medium cluster jewels. In softcore, I recommend getting a Nimbus, so you can double hit more consistently as well as improve your clear. Also obtaining an Asenath brutal restraint jewel for the dance with death keystone is a great option. Finally, you don't need to use a cloak of flame. You can go for a corrupted +2 or +4 chest, as it is more accessible in softcore trade and will provide a significant DPS boost. Since this build is creating traps so fast, you want to increase your trap limit through the passive tree. Otherwise, previously placed traps will be destroyed before they are triggered, therefore losing out on damage. This is the reason why the Ascendancy node Chain Reaction is picked instead of Demolition Specialist. In addition to that, you should also pick up Trap Trigger Area effect nodes, as these synergize very well with Chain Reaction. Tattoos, you want to use the Honor Tattoo of the Wise for +1 to Intelligence skill gems. If you are like me and want to hear shatter sounds, you can also use a few cold damage tattoos, but they won't significantly help your build. The recommended option is going for life suppression and or stun avoidance tattoos. If you want to use a brutal restraint jewel for the Dance with Death keystone, the jewel socket at the Ghost Dance area is a great spot. That was the build guide. Thank you for watching.